Hey guys, welcome back to the channel and up for another rockumentary review. So a few weeks back I had done the review for, I'd rewatched and done the review for Anvil, the story of Anvil, which is about a Canadian heavy metal band. Now that one I've never heard of any of their music. I never heard any of their music before I actually watched that particular documentary for the first time several years ago. But ended up supporting them a huge bit. I still don't listen to their music. I'm not a fan of their music, to be honest, but I support them because of the way that documentary was actually shot. They're nice guys. Very similarly, very nice guys, down-to-earth people. But this one is, of course, one of my favorite bands. So this rockumentary is called Rush Beyond the Lighted Stage, and Rush is one of my top 3 bands of all time. I absolutely love Rush, love their music, and funny part is because they had 19 albums, there was some music that I'm still, I've listened to it here and there, but I'm kind of like rediscovering them along the lines, and I'm trying to do some reviews of their albums for my blog as well. So anyway, Rush, like I said, is one of my top 3 bands of all time. It's Rush, Pearl Jam, and Barenaked Ladies. These are the 3 bands who I absolutely adore. I call them my 3 favorite rock bands, 3 favorite bands of all time. So this documentary came out in 2010. It's directed by Scott McFadden and Sam Dunn. The guys are behind a lot of rockumentaries throughout the years, and this is probably one of their best, or probably their best. It's an in-depth look at the Canadian band Rush, who are no longer in various, mainly because, in 2015, after they'd done their 40th anniversary tour, Neil Peart wanted to retire from playing because he was having health reasons, and none of us knew it at the time, but he was having brain cancer. So they haven't actually been performing for a while, but we've always got their documentaries, we've got their live concerts. I have a few of them, so I've got over there, I've got Rush Rock in Rio, Rush the 40th anniversary and Time Stands Still, and of course this particular one, which is Beyond the Lighted Stage. So it basically looks at their run from their inception, the early years for early years for both Geddy Lee, who plays the bass and the keyboardist, and the singer probably even makes the tea and coffee during the break, during the interview in between. And Alex Lifeson, how they met. Both of them were sons of immigrants. You have, of course, very famously, Geddy's parents were both in concentration camps in Poland, and then moved to Canada much later. And then Geddy was born there. Similarly, Alex Lifeson's father, I believe, was also in one of the concentration camps, and then they were Yugoslavian or Serbian, and then they moved to Canada as well, where he was born. And Neil Peart, who the drummer, rest in peace, he, of course, his family is from St. Catharines in Ontario. So not only does it talk about them, and I'll probably highlight a couple of things, but you also got interviews with several other musicians who are big fans of the band, including Sebastian Bach, Jack Black, of course, actor and musician. Then you've got Danny Carey, Jimmy Chamberlin, Les Claypool, Tim Comerford from Rage Against the Machine, Billy Corgan from the Smashing Pumpkins, Kirk Hammett from Metallica, Taylor Hawkins, who also passed away a few years ago, from the Foo Fighters, who was the drummer for the Foo Fighters, Jason McGurr from Death Cab from Cutie, Kim Mitchell, who was a Canadian singer and guitar player for the band Max Webster, Winnie Paul, again another drummer who passed away, from Pantera, Mike Portnoy, drummer for Dream Theater, Trent Reznor from Nine Inch Nails, Gene Simmons from Kiss. Kiss actually supported, Rush supported Kiss on a couple of their tours, and they were influenced a little by the way that Kiss did tours. Matt Stone from the he's a producer, right? I haven't really watched that show in South Park, I guess. And Zakk Wylde of Black Label Society. Very fun, very odd that Black Sorry, Zach Wild is actually a fan of Rush, but they're very, very different in music. And of course, you have some of their band managers, their tour managers, their producers, their family members as well. You only get to see family members. You get to see Alex's mother, Melania Zivojinovic. That's actually Alex Lifeson's real name, Zivojinovic. Uh, Mary Weinreb, who's Geddy Lee's mother, but you don't really get to hear from their other family members, but you do see their wives a little bit here and there. So yeah, what I love about this show is it shows you how a band can be three members. Of course, initially it was John Rutsey who was the original drummer, but because of health reasons, and also he wasn't really the kind of drummer for this band after the first album, which came out in 1974. They were very young back then. He was let go, and they auditioned drummers, and they found Neil Peart. He came in, and he was fantastic. He was obviously arguably the very best drummer in the entire world. For me, definitely he is. I consider him to be the world's greatest drummer. Of course, there is a saying among a lot of rock fans that Neil Peart is either your favorite drummer or your favorite drummer's favorite drummer. That's a very funny thing to say. But yeah, you get to see how they struggled initially. They got some initial push from a radio station in Cleveland, and then how they started going on tour with their first album, Rush, and then that is when John Rutsey was let go. Neil Peart came in, and then they released their second album, Fly By Night, and Caress of Steel, which didn't sell well. It was it was a very tough time for the band because, the label wasn't happy because the album didn't do that well, and of course, you had them saying just get shorter songs, get on the radio, play you had some initial success, so try to get that into more commercial success and all that stuff. But did they listen? No, they didn't listen. They decided they want to go out. If they were going to go out, they're going to go out on their own accord. They're going to make an album which is for them, something that they feel is true to them. And if it doesn't sell, it doesn't sell, and they'll go back to doing regular day jobs. And of course, that was 1976 magnum opus 2112. Right? So imagine that, and then of course the label thought, okay, we really don't understand the band, they are successful now, so let's just leave them alone. And of course we've had all their latest albums since then. You have clips from their concerts, they talk about their tours, their recording stuff, right? So just going to read out some of the things. I'll also mention which of the stuff that is kind of like still very new to me, because it's been very difficult to get into. Anyway, so Rush, Fly By Night, Caress of Steel. Caress of Steel is probably my least favorite album of Rush. 2112 came out in 2006. Sorry, in 1976. What am I talking about? 1976, which is also the year that I was born. Farewell to Kings came in at the very next year, and then in 1978 came Hemispheres. Then the change in 1980 to more, shorter songs, more radio success. They got their some of their huge hits, especially from Permanent Waves, which they do talk about the song "The Spirit of Radio," Entre Nous, which is a very introspective song. And you also have Free Will, which is another great album. The guys are basically atheists, so it always resonates with us. And in 1981, they're probably the biggest album of their career, which is Moving Pictures, came out in 1981. And of course, in that you had songs like Tom Sawyer. You had Limelight, which is another one of my big favorites. Limelight always puts a smile on my face. So fantastic listening. And of course, you've got YYZ, which is, yeah, one of the best instrumentals of all time. And of course, Red Barchetta, Vital Signs, and all that. Where I mean, although I was very young, I only started listening to Rush when it was 1992. I believe, yeah, summer of 1992 is when I started listening to Rush. I was like 16 years old at the time. But for a long time, their albums since 1981, which is the more synthesizer heavy, other ones that I barely used to listen to. That includes Signals, Grace Under Pressure, Power Windows, Hold Your Fire. And I'll tell you this now, I've got much more bigger appreciation for them. Grace Under Fire, in fact, is a fantastic album. It's probably one of my top 5 albums of Rush. Hold Your Fire, all really good. They've got subdivisions in it. And then, of course, the ones that I'm more familiar with are starting from 1989 with Presto. It's got one of my favorite songs of Rush. It's called Presto, the title track, basically. I love that song. Love the meaning behind it as well. Then, of course, the first album that I bought of Rush, which is Roll the Bones, which is the album that I associate myself with my love for Rush. With this album, got a lot of great hummable songs, Counterparts, very, very strong album. Then Test for Echo, which came in 1986. Of course, after that, they talk about Neil Peart's daughter dying in a car crash, and then a couple of weeks later, his wife also died of a broken heart syndrome. So he went, there was a gap of a few years between 96 to 2002. The man almost split up because how do you recover from that, right? So Neil decided to go, he needed to do something after his wife's funeral, so he actually went on a long journey, drove his bike all across Canada and the United States. Finally met a woman a couple of years later in California who he later married and had a child with. So they came back with Vapor Trails in 2002, got some fantastic songs on that, and of course then 2007, Snakes and Arrows. Oh yeah, in between they had the Rock in Rio amazing live concert DVD. And the final album came out in 2012, which is Clockwork Angels. And like I mentioned, after they did the tour for that, they did the final tour, which is the 40th anniversary short tour, because Neil was struggling with his health. So we talk about 3 guys who stood by their, the things that were, they had their own principles. They didn't want to bow down to commercialism and all that. They wanted to be true to themselves, and they succeeded. They were successful. They were one of the best bands in the entire world. For me, like I said, one of my top 3 bands. I could go on and on and on, but yeah, I just want to talk about this. 10 out of 10 for me. This is a fantastic documentary. So yeah, please do watch it. Even if you're not a fan of Rush now, you will definitely be one after you watch that entire show. So yeah, that's a great documentary to watch if you want to get into Rush. So that's it. 10 out of 10 for me.